Testing this mic. Checking the mic. I see a spoon in the cup. Hello, monkey. How are you doing tonight? Hopefully you can hear me okay. Oh, have myself echoing. Alright, let me get this switched. Okay, so not in the booth yet. Still got a little bit of work to do tonight regarding primer and making sure things are good to go before we start working with some color and revealing some fun stuff. So on the agenda today is primer review number 2. So we already had our first primer review where we went through, after we sanded down everything the first time and smoothed a whole bunch of stuff out, and this is the second pass of sanding and reviewing after we primed again. So we are following that process of sanding and finding bubbles and filling them in and other scratches and stuff, and then repriming, and it can go on and on and on depending on, how bad your cast is. But from what I could tell, we did a pretty good job the first time filling in a lot of stuff, and so I don't anticipate doing too much work on the rest of these pieces tonight. So we will go through and do all of that, and then after those pieces are smoothed down and ready, we will switch over this camera setup and go back into the airbrush booth, probably reprime those pieces. It won't take very long to do that because they're already mostly primed already. And then we'll switch over to color. So I've got a whole bunch of color. You can hear me tapping it. We'll be working with some paints today and putting some color on spoons. So I'm going to reveal kind of the color scheme I'm thinking for now. It's always subject to change until, we're actually putting paint on the kit, but for now I have an idea of what I want to do, so we're going to roll with it. So let's just get started with sanding and smoothing the rest of these pieces. Won't probably take too long, but I do want to give each of them a thorough look through again, make sure that they're all ready to go. So what we'll be using tonight is primarily 1200 grit or higher. At this point, I don't want to be sanding down the primer too much. I just want to be smoothing stuff out, so we will be doing that. And some of these may not even need any major sanding. They might just need a little bit of a buff here and there. So, and then we'll put them back on the rack. So that's what's the plan right now. Hope you are doing well tonight. Let me see if I can maybe adjust this camera just a little bit because I'm going to be pulling it down. Oops. Okay, maybe that will be better. Let's see. Yep, my head is still not showing, so we should be good. Yeah, just gonna give each of these kind of a quick swipe. Look at them one final time to make sure that everything is as smooth as I want it to be. See, there's still a little bit here. Oops. Try to get this camera to focus. So little bits like this are gonna have just a bit more priming to do. And I'm really gonna have kind of 2 piles on my bench. One will be pieces that need to be primed still, just one brief final priming, and then the other side will be stuff that's ready to paint. So this one will be primed just a little bit. Yeah, no problem, Monkey. I hope I can catch one of your streams sometime. I know you said you mostly stream on the weekends. It would be nice to see some different types of hobbies, so I'm looking forward to seeing your setup and how you build those kits that you get, because they're super elaborate. I'm always pretty impressed with your final builds of them. Okay. Yeah, really not too much here. It's just Except that needs a tiny bit more primer. Hello, Curry. Yes, we are going to be doing some spoon testing tonight. I've got a bunch of paints over next to me that I've pulled out that might or might not be useful. But first I need to give these pieces a second round of sanding to make sure that all of that primer is buffed out and that we don't have any more pinholes in this kit, because there were a whole lot we had to fill in the first time around. Not seeing any this time though, so that's great. Still just a little bit more priming that needs to happen. Probably gonna happen on all of these pieces at this rate, but they're already pretty white, so not too much needed. Alright, this one especially. Really want to make sure that everything is smooth. Really just barely taking off any fuzzies or bits of primer that got stuck on this kit. You can see most of the dust coming off is very small and brief. A smooth piece. I think it's something I might like making. Yeah, I think that, you know, you might be right. I like a lot of those tiny kits and things that require a lot of detail, so I was thinking of maybe at some point building one of the dollhouse kits that I have in my closet on stream here, because that would be a good excuse just to take a couple hours and do something different. But I'm not sure if that's something that people would be interested in watching. It's similar to your types of kits, like it's fully assembled, got everything already, you just kind of cut and snap and put things together. I think this one has some lighting, like little LED lights in it as well, so that might be fun to do. Okay, this one's pretty good too. Quite a difference from when we first started, right, in terms of the color and quality going on. You can see now that there were all those spots on her side, and all of those are filled in now. All the holes along, you know, the top, all those are gone now. She's got some really nice kind of slight back muscles that show, not just her little butt, but you can see that there's a shading line that kind of goes up along her back. So, and here too, that is her back right there. So that's a spot where we can add some definition. And all along here, like even her little belly has a lot of shading and potential there. So that will be fun to do. Yeah, a lot of these pieces just need one really thin coat, final coat, and then they should be good. Not seeing any bubbles. Cool, yeah, I'll consider it then. Maybe after this kit, I'll take like an intermission, because I think some of those kits, like the finished ones, only take anywhere between like 4 to 10 hours to build, so I could do a kind of a small mini series of building a dollhouse kit. Something new that I've never done either. I've never built one of those kits before, so it'd be fun to do that for the first time. Okay, a little... I don't even know what grit this is, but oh, I know that. Very happy with how this filled in her shoulder. So there were a whole lot of bubbles all inside of her arms here. You can see that there's none of that's visible now. And very, very, very faint line of the Bondo, but it should cover up enough once we get the skin tone on. And one thin final layer of primer. That's pretty good too. may get to spoons closer than I thought, or sooner than I thought. Okay, let's go to the other arm. Pull that one out. Okay, so this is the other one. This was the problematic arm, more so than the other one. Still a few little dents here and there, but at this point I'm willing to deal with it and just paint it as is. All of those bubbles along her palm are now gone though, so that's great. One potentially bubble that could pop here, but I think that coat of primer will probably cover it. Okay, and one small bubble here. There we go. We sanded a little bit. I think the primer will fill it in at this point, so. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Very happy with how this smoothed out. A lot of work went into this, but very happy. Okay, boots. A little bit more primer needed on these boots. These boots and were kind of one of the rougher pieces. Okay, so I'll probably get by that. There might be a little bubble right at the bottom of her shoe, but I'm not going to be seeing that, so I'm not too concerned. So smooth now. Remember, all those boots were so bubbly and horrible. Had a huge line along the back, but now there's basically nothing, so pretty good. Slowly smoothing these down. A step that's often kind of overlooked, but also very important, is just smoothing down the primer coat that you laid on. And so stuff like Mr. Color Leveling Thinner or any other leveling thinner will help in getting that smooth flat finish, but a lot of figure builders, to get that truly smooth anime finish, sand down the prime job after they do it. So, and you'd be surprised the amount of fuzzies and other little things that come off of this kit, or any kit, once you give them a sanding with a high grit sandpaper. I actually asked Masked Modeler when he was active on Twitter how he got such a smooth paint job, because I had had issues, you know, with primer being rough in certain places, and he recommended that you sand with 1000 grit or higher, despite the pieces, you know, being primed and all. So ever since he said that, I've been trying to take a little more care in how I smooth my pieces down. Like, I knew that obviously sanding it after would give you a smoother finish, but it's just that one extra step that you gotta take. Try to make sure your kits look nice. Okay. Oops. Okay. I had to adjust something. Okay, that one's pretty good. Moving along at a good pace here. So I'm just going to do the head next. So head also really nice smooth job. You can see she's got this funny face now, but everything is pretty smooth. So I know I said smooth like 5 times already, but it's true. most of the damage was along her hair here, so get this off. And down here in her neck, so I'm gonna make sure this neck is nice and prepared. Yep, nice clean prime job here. Pretty happy. Okay. A little bit of extra priming needed around her neck. I think that's it. Okay, we'll do this one next. So this is the piece that was just kind of sitting on a piece of tape because I didn't have a little wire to hold it up at the time, but that's okay. Pretty straightforward. We'll sit like, let's see, like that. So nice bangs, covers up her giant forehead. So without the forehead, like without it, you just think, oh my gosh, she's got kind of a big head, but this really fixes everything up. Also, really covers up her eyebrows, and so we'll be putting eyebrows on this kit, but you're really only gonna see like a peek of them shining through this hair. I've not fully decided what kind of eyebrows I want to give her yet, so like rather angular ones or those kind of like short stubby ones. I'm not sure how to describe that specific type, like Moogie from KO. She's got like those types of round ones, and that kind of monk style with the super like circular oval eyebrows. That's really popular with this type of haircut, so maybe I'll do that. Okay, entering the bigger pieces now. So this is her pants. We'll be doing those first. These might still have a few problems, so I'm gonna kind of look over it. So we got the pants left, and that tattered clothing, and then her hair, her twin tail hair, which last time we puttied it and stuck it together. And I did do a little bit of work on that hair in terms of smoothing it out, trying to make sure that we didn't really see the seam line anymore, or at least it was smooth enough where a paint job will cover it. So hopefully it looks good now. We went through maybe 2 or 3 smoothing jobs before I was starting to get happy with it. So basically what we're doing now, just smoothing it down and then priming over it again and again. Pants are looking great. Not seeing any more bubbling at all. A little bit of, you know, a scratch here and there, but this kit was already pretty older and it had a whole bunch of stuff, you know, sculpting wise that had issue anyway. So yeah, really happy with this. Basically completely smooth at this point. Remember, this was filled entirely with holes, and it's got, you know, definitely dozens of holes from the light carrying putty that filled it in, so. Little bit more there. Sides are looking pretty good too, so especially for these pants, you can't neglect the sides too much, like these areas, but these are all looking great too. So, and the inside, yeah, pretty happy with that. So only a tiny spot to fix with the primer. Move some pieces around. Okay, next one. This was the problem one, more so than the other one. Right here especially. Let's see if I can get the light to shine on it. You can kind of see a very faint outline of all of the Bondo stuff kind of along here. Again, much, much better than before. Spent a lot of time fixing these corrections, or fixing these holes and making corrections to this kit. But it looks just like the made one, that it's paid off, and she's nice and smooth now. Not underestimate the power of putty and a nice coat of primer. There may be one hole here, now that I'm looking at it. Let me hold this piece up to the light real quick. Not quite sure what that is. Let me grab this. Okay, this looks like one small potential bubble, so. Yep, one more tiny bubble that was missed, but not too bad. We will definitely have to do a little more priming to this piece. You got my light carrying putty. Okay, let me hold this up to the light real quick. Get all of that smoothed down. Just that one hole that was left. It was looked like it had a little Bondo in it. And oops. Somehow it got missed in all those rounds. It happens. Also a little hair. There we go. Whoa, got a buzz on my phone. Oh, the app. Okay, get this down. Oh, can just use the 800 for this one. Once I finish sanding this bubble, I'll show you guys. Unfortunately, it's going to end up sanding down some of the smooth primer that was around the area, but fortunately cannot be helped. It won't be too much though. Okay, there we go. That's all smooth. Go over this with a 1200. Alright. So right up there is where that yellow bubble had to be, but you can see that all along here we basically completely filled in this like side with this light curing putty at this point. There's so many pinholes and little bubbles that showed up on this piece. I think that is the only other issue with it though. Get a bit more of this dust off. One more potential hole, but I'm just gonna fill that in and see. Same here, there's a slight hole, a very small pinhole, but the 1200 at this point will smooth and fill most of that in, so definitely not going to be glaringly noticeable. Okay. Put that piece up. So that one will need a little more primer than the other ones, just because we had to sand down to bare resin again. Okay. Do this next. So, her big tattered clothes, which most of the issue was along the edge of the tattered clothes. Lots of little fuzzies on this one. Yeah, not really going to see the inside of this, but I do want to make sure that it's nice and smooth. I'm going to leave this wire in here as well because it's just going to be hung up again. Looking significantly better than last time, so there were a bunch of holes and other miscellaneous things in some of the clothing folds along the side. Not seeing any of that anymore. You want to be mindful of some of these, you know, curves and indents, because it's sometimes if you don't angle your airbrush the right way, you're going to get those fuzzies that kind of just settle. So really just going to take a moment and sand out some of these fuzzies. You may be able to see some of the excess fuzzies that are just kind of sitting in there, but just very lightly going over it with the 1200 is removing them. Okay, good look. Pretty good. A few oddities here and there, but nothing too bad. And pretty pleased with all of the holes that filled in along the sides here. I'm not really seeing any bubbles at all, so that second pass really helped a lot. There were some bubbles originally that kind of popped up on the sides up here. All of those are gone now as well. So really this just needs a very thin coat as well. That's great. No more puttying needed for most of these pieces. Alright, let me get a drink real quick, and then we will look over her two twin tails, which are the last two pieces before we move back into the spray brush booth. Okay. So let me pull up what we did last time, just as kind of a review. So So you may have seen this last time. I'm going to make it a little bigger now. This is not the kit we are working on, but this is kind of the process that we did, except these pieces aren't painted. So this is the previous project that I worked on, Habanero Tom. It has a front and a back hair piece, and basically we want to attach those pieces and make it so there's not a seam. We want no seam line. So this is the first photo, and what we did on Monday, we put a whole bunch of putty on that gap and tried to, you know, cover everything. Then after that, we started the process of sanding everything down and smoothing out that gap. You can see there's still paint in the middle there. It's because we haven't sanded all the way. This is after we repainted this piece and then just continued that process of sanding and smoothing and re-priming, etc. And this is what it should look like after. So you can see there's virtually no seam line left after this process. So this is an optional thing you can do to make your kit look a little bit smoother. I'll leave it up here for now, just, you know, as we're talking about these pieces and looking over them. But this is something easy you can do to make your kit look a little bit better and smoother. So what we did last time is we attached these two hair pieces together, and originally they were 4 parts, and now they are, excuse me, 2, as you can see. This piece here was attached here. So let's see if I can get it to zoom in. So this was originally attached here and here. And as you can see, or not see, it's virtually indistinguishable now. There's a little bit, you know, of a line, but nowhere near what we were dealing with before. And it almost looks like this piece was combined from the very beginning. So again, this piece went through, I would say 2 or 3 processes of me just slowly buffing it down and repriming it until it got it to till it was totally flat. So again, it was right here and kind of like right here is where we smoothed it out. So pretty happy with how this turned out. We still need to go over it one more time with 1200 grit and just kind of get everything, you know, flat and how I want it and ready for paint. But this is basically what the piece will look like when we spray it. We're not going to be doing anything else in terms of, you know, gluing or changing it other than attaching it to her head. The other piece looks the same-ish, a little bit more complex because it had 3 points of contact, but let's see, let it zoom in. Right here is where we attached it. So there's a very, very faint line, but you can see it kind of just blends in. That piece wraps around here. So right here is where that line is. And then a little bit more noticeable on the inside, on the inner corner, the line is right about here. So maybe easier to tell on this side. Right here, you can see there's a very faint line there. But again, we're not really going to be looking at it from that angle-ish. I think it's going to be attached like this to her head. And so, yeah, very happy with how this turned out. I did have to go in and kind of smooth out this line here, this curve, because when I attached it, it just kind of, and we sanded it down and everything, it was very flat. So I ended up flattening that curve, and I didn't really want that. Her hair is supposed to be super twirly, so I just went in with my sandpaper and smoothed it all out and kind of bent that curve again. So you can see it's a little bit flat here, not really noticeable at all. And yeah, very happy. So that's the basic how-to on that process. If you're doing this, you know, after you've painted it, it's more or less the same procedure. You're just going to take, you know, your sandpaper and your putty and work slowly, and it'll take a couple times before it's totally smooth, but end result is very much worth it. So last thing we're going to do is, just like the other pieces, we're going to smooth out some of this primer. But this piece I've been working on, so not too much needed, to be honest. A very, very, very big difference from when we first started these pieces, and, you know, they were covered in Bondo and the curves weren't right. Had to do a lot of, adjusting in the shape of these curves. They had a whole bunch of, you know, junk all over them, seam lines, etc. So now they just look like they're white and ready to go. So that's great. The inside here, a little bit rough. Yeah, I can't even see that line anymore. That's great. This piece I'm really happy with. The other one, the inside is a little bit not how I want it, but honestly, at that point, I'm just done. Okay, gonna set this up. And this was the last one we're gonna smooth down, so. Quiet night tonight. Interesting. I'm happy for those of you who could tune in tonight, since everyone else will be missing out on the fun stuff, aka painting. Okay. I think that just about covers it for this primer review. So really happy with this final result so far. We've come so far in getting these pieces presentable and ready to go, and getting the kit ready to paint, honestly. I put this kit off for the longest time because I just didn't feel like working on through everything. But we actually did it in pretty reasonable time, and you know, we're able to get through a lot of it. So let me put this piece up, and then it's about time to transition over into my airbrush booth. So I will shortly be putting on the Be Right Back scene, you know, as we move into my booth. And after that, after I get my booth set up, I'm gonna thin some primer one more time and kind of lightly spray over all of the pieces just one final time to get any of that extra sanding stuff that we wiped off back on there. And then we will start messing around with paint, and I will reveal kind of what I'm thinking for her color scheme. So I'm gonna turn off my mic, and I will see you guys in my airbrush booth shortly. Okay, I think I'm back. Looks like my camera's still on, and I've switched my booth setup, so we'll see how zoomed in it is and if I need to make any adjustments. So I am a little farther away from my mic right now, so if you need me to speak up, just let me know. Wow, that is really zoomed in. Let me adjust that for a second. You can still see how messy it is. Okay, let's try zooming out, moving over, going up. Let me turn off this other one. There you go. Okay, this might angle this is a little weird, so let me adjust. Oh, I see. Okay, that's a little better. So let's see. This is my hands. Let me hold up a piece of an example. I'll probably turn this in a little more. There we go. Much better. Still pretty messy here. As you can see, I haven't fully changed everything out, but I have been slowly replacing my paper towels. So we're about halfway clean here, but that's fine. We'll be making lots of mess shortly. So I'm just gonna test the angle of this real quick, kind of make sure that it looks okay. Yeah, should be good. Should have a lot of good focus today. Lighting seems better than usual. That's weird, but okay. All right, so I'm gonna turn this on. That's my airbrush compressor. And okay, let me get some primer thin real quick, and then we can start airbrushing and messing around with color and all that other stuff. But first, the primer. So I have this cup already filled with a lot of primer that I've been using, and so I'm just gonna thin it again. I did it earlier today and I just kind of let it sit in the cup, so it's still all good primer. Mix it around a little bit. Yeah, it was like, what do I even focus on? This really shouldn't take this long. I really expect it only to take maybe like 10-20 minutes to get everything, because we're just going to give them a really light spray. We're not going to, you know, go over every piece a whole lot. There's only a couple spots on all of it. So good. Let me test, make sure it's clean. Yep, we're good on that end. Let me grab my mat. And let me double check to make sure the noise filter is on. Yep, we're good. So once my airbrush booth goes on, it's going to get quiet just for a little bit. But again, we'll be back to talk about color and stuff very shortly. So for now, just enjoy the last round of priming. Mask is on. And let me pour this in here. Nice thick primer, as you can see. All right, and I turn it down. Alright. Hopefully you guys can hear me now. My filter hasn't shut me off. So yeah, we really only need to do a little bit more spraying to each of those pieces because essentially we've already cleaned up most of the stuff. But see, I still have so much primer left in my cup. Really didn't need very much at all. So I'm pretty happy about that. Let me clean up my airbrush really nice and good now because we are going to transition into more fun stuff. Hello, Mr. Frike. Thank you for joining us tonight. Glad you could make it. It is the finally awaited time coming up shortly. Foods and colors and fun stuff. I've not admittedly done much research into like actually mixing this paint, so there will be some trial and error involved, as well as me looking at my references and trying to figure things out. So doing it live, I guess. Okay, grab another couple of Q-tips. Get rid of this 1200 grit. Yeah, no more priming. That's going to be happening on this stream for this kit. At this point, any final priming will be on my end, but after that third pass, I think we're pretty much good to go. So from here on out, it'll just be, mixing colors and actual painting. Much quicker than the maid stream when I was comparing the two. I think a lot of it is because I was talking about procedures and everything, but this one is just like, let's get through it. So we're not even halfway, like in terms of the streams that happened for the maid kit. There were around 32 or 33 streams for that maid kit, and we're already painting this one and we're only on like stream 12 or 13, so really good time compared to the other one. Again, a lot of it was me just talking about things related to the kit hobby and how-tos rather than just building straight. So, oh, there we go. Just popped out. So give me one sec. Gotta loosen my airbrush now. Shut this off. Oh, that's not good. Should be. My nozzle just popped out. Oh yeah, my little piston, where'd it go? There we go. So, this is that piston I was talking about last time. Sometimes I oil it. In this case, it just popped right out of my airbrush. In there. Oops. Back on to make sure that the trigger works okay. Good. Needle is good. Some thinner through it. Yep, we're good. Alright, that's nice and clean now, especially after I pulled it apart. And let me actually do this real quick. Here, always forget to take care of the lid.
It explains your cocky attitude.
You can tell stuff like that from how my blood tastes?
Alright, so color scheme and painting and spoons and everything else related. We are finally ready after so many streams to start looking and figuring out the color scheme. So I thought about this kit a lot, and originally I really liked the colors that are in the current project one. Again, this is a game character. Her name is officially Monk, and she's a character class you can play in Etrian Odyssey 3. However, I'm not super familiar with that series, and so I decided I'd like to paint her in a different color scheme. So we will be following the altered color scheme as opposed to the one that's under current projects. So I'll probably change the image for that later after we've revealed it. And that way you guys will have an idea of what I'm doing in mixing and not saying like, why is this so different compared to everything that I'm building normally. Anyway, alright, so I am set on this color scheme for now. Might as well just reveal it. It is also game related, so it does have some grounding, you know, it's not just a random color scheme I made up. But I'm gonna paint her like Chun-Li, I'm pretty sure. So thought about this for a long time, did some altered colors in, you know, Photoshop. I really like her action pose. I think she's super cute and her hair matches and she's got those little scrunchies. So I think that painting her like Chun-Li will work really well. Also will give me a chance to work with some different types of paints. Thinking of making her outfit metallic. So I've got some metallics I want to work with. Her shirt doesn't have any details, so we can go ahead and like, you know, hand paint her gold details. You know, see how Chun-Li has like that gold detailing like across her breasts and along the top. This maid kit has a very similar collar style, and so I can probably hand paint it, you know, with enough patience and skill. And then the rest kind of like matches up vaguely. So this isn't really, you know, girl as Chun-Li or like this is Chun-Li, but it's just this character in like a Chun-Li costume. And so I really think it's cute. Have been wanting to play with metallic blues and golds for a while. It's also been a very long time since I've painted brown hair. I really don't do it that often for my kits, and last time I painted it was many years ago. Let me try to find out when the last brown haired kit I painted was. For whatever reason, this website does not want to load on my PC. So give me 1 second. Let's see, when's the last time I painted a brown haired character? Oh my goodness. Well, I painted one that had kind of red hair, but that doesn't count. Brown. So the last brown haired kit I ever painted was in 2017. So long time ago. You know, nearly 5 years since I painted brown hair. And so I'd like to do it again. I have a bunch of paints that I purchased / wanted to buy, so that should be really fun. This kit also has those twin tails, so it'll be fun to do some different shading and stuff on her. Overall, though, still really simplistic color scheme, you know, not too crazy. She's got that brown hair, and then the blue and the kind of orangey, you know, brown tights is all really cohesive, but it's nothing too, you know, out there. So what we'll be doing is just kind of mixing colors and getting vaguely in the realm of what I want. No guarantee that these spoons tonight will work out the way I want them to, but that's also part of the fun, is just mixing color and seeing what we can do and if we can get stuff close. So let me download this real quick on my phone because I totally forgot, and we'll get started. Also, her skin tone is very healthy, as you can see in those images and from the skin like eyedroppers that I did. Chun-Li has a very warm, yellowy, healthy skin tone. Even that image reference that I painted over in Photoshop, she's way too pale in that. And I usually go pretty pale in my kits, so I'm hoping that I can give her a healthier skin tone this time. That would be pretty nice to do. So let me open this up. And what to work on first. The whites I'm not going to bother with, mostly because I already know how to do white. So, oh yeah, let me show you guys what paints I'm looking at first. And I guess what we'll do, let me see if I can put this like here. We'll put it up here for now. Let me see how that looks on my stream. That's pretty good. I might remove it if it's taking up too much room, but for now that's good. Anyway, so I pulled out a couple of paints that I want to get baseline spoon colors with, just to see if they'll work for this kit first, or if I can, alter them with white or something later. The first is Mr. Lashabas Copper Brown. This is a color that's a part of the Mr. Lashabas line, but it's not their skin tone line. So they have a separate line called Mr. Lashabas Aura, and this paint is a copper brown. So let me open it up, show each one off. Don't want it tilted too much, but you can see it's a very nice brown. It goes on pretty smooth. I used this for something, I don't remember recently, but I really liked this color, and so we might use that one. Second one, let's just do all the browns first, I guess. Next one is Mr. Color 42. This is a mahogany color. Let me shake it up real quick. I actually bought this one at a hobby shop thinking of this project, so I'm not sure if it will work. I was thinking along the line of having it work for her hair somehow, so this one might be a good one. Again, you can mix all of these colors too, but the pigments and richness you're going to be getting out of the bottle for, the plain color for these is pretty good. So sometimes it's a little bit easier just to buy a bottle mix and then adjust that from there with, different colors or white or whatever. Next one is just Mr. Clear Color GX. So this is clear brown. Pretty straightforward. Clear brown though is used a lot of times in painting stockings or tights, some combination of clear brown and clear black. This one is a much deeper brown compared to the Gaia Notes brown. So the Gaia Notes clear brown is more of an orange color. This one is just very much brown. It goes out really dark, so it's a pretty dark color out of the bottle. Happening here? Why is this not focusing? There's literally nothing else here in this booth for to focus on. There we go. So yeah, Mr. Color GX 109. This is clear brown. So may or may not use this, not really sure, just pulled it out. The next one is Mr. Color CK4. This is another super random one that I bought. It's actually meant for like wood floor coloring, but I'm curious how it sprays out of the bottle. Not sure if I'll use this for anything, but again, it seemed nice and I bought it on a whim because it's kind of a hard color to mix, or just like an annoying color to mix, so having it as a basis would be pretty good. We'll see how that one sprays directly onto a spoon. I also pulled out CL103. This is a black color, so it's literally called Black Hair, and it's meant for painting hair, but I figure I'll give it a try. I actually bought this one for painting black hair as well. You can see it's not purely black, it's more gray, definitely more gray, bluish in tone. So I wonder how that one will come out. It doesn't look like it will be plain black. Lastly, and kind of a combo piece, is Mr. Color GX2. So this is Ueno Black. It is a gloss black, and so the gloss black will go well with Mr. Color Metallic Blue. So this is the blue I'm thinking I want her shirt to be. We can adjust this further and tone it differently with clear colors, and so the black is straightforward, I don't need to open it up, but the blue, I'm not really sure how this one will spray. You can see it's a very vibrant blue, but it looks more on the blue color scheme end rather than the cyan color scheme end. So blue and cyan, they actually come out really differently, and so this one looks more blue to me. So, and this one I think we'll also need to spray with my other airbrush because it is a metallic color, so we'll have to do some stuff with that. So, first thing, I guess, is just going to use a whole bunch of eyedroppers and a whole bunch of little cups and spray base colors on these spoons. So, I've got a whole box of spoons over here. And one thing I did notice for these spoons that I'll have to do is kind of take them and rub them really lightly with a melamine sponge, because I bought these spoons in bulk from Amazon, and I found that they had a bunch of like mold release or weird stuff on them, and so spraying them right out of the box wasn't cutting it. They were leaving like the sticky film that paint wouldn't adhere to. And so I think I've solved that problem by just like wiping them off with a sponge really quick. No need to like clean them or, you know, do anything crazy. But I do want to prep them real quick. It doesn't take that much extra time, and it saves a lot of money because smaller spoon packs, they add up pretty quick. So we'll see if this all works for each of these. But yeah, pretty excited. Maybe not the color scheme some of you guys were expecting. Maybe it's one you want to see, but I think it will be really fun. And I would really have been wanting to incorporate some metallics into my figures recently for myself. I've been using a lot of pearl color, but I haven't been using a lot of metallics. So I think that this little Chun-Li monk will be a good place to start. And she does have like quite a bit going on there because of tattered skirt and everything. Which also, metallics are a super easy way to not have to do a ton of shading because they reflect and they're really fun by themselves. So you don't need to do anything too crazy to them. Did something weird, got weird taste in my mouth. Okay, so let me grab this. And actually, let me grab a little cup full of the leveling thinner so that way I don't have to keep opening it up. I'm not going to use too much of this leveling thinner this time, just because we're kind of messing around. And I'll probably actually use half the amount of the mixture I usually do, so, you know, that's something else. Oh, I also have some Mr. Finishing Surface, their 1500 black. I think I'm going to spray this first on some of those pieces, a couple of spoons, because that way we can apply this first. So this is basically a primer. It's a black primer. And then we'll be putting the Ueno black on top of this to give it a more of a glossy finish. And then finally we'll put the metallic on top. But we'll do that probably last. I really want to mess around with these browns first. So. First one we will use is copper brown. So Mr. Lashiva's copper brown. Let me grab my droppers too. Alright, so usually I do 2 droppers of my hardware lacquer store thinner and then like 1 dropper of the leveling thinner. So we'll do like about half, or just kind of eyeball it. And I'm only going to use half of my lacquer paint because we don't need a lot. We're just trying to get 1 coat on a nice spoon. And let's see, I don't know an easy way to go about this without turning the booth on every time. I guess they'll just have to deal with it. And so the booth will be going on and off here and there. So if there's periods of silence, then don't mind it. We'll do 1 coat, like 1 coat of, you know, paint, and then move on and turn the booth off, etc. I think that would be an easy way for me to talk about it. Booth still on? All right. So pretty quick application there. Not really, too bad at all. Let's see. Let me pour this in here first, and then we'll talk about it. So I'm gonna try to do 2 of each color. One is gonna be just like directly saturated onto the spoon, and then the other one is gonna be a slight gradient, if possible. And I'm just gonna do a quick wipe out of both these. So despite coming out as like copper, these pieces or this paint isn't super copper. It's really more of a brownish orange color, and it is coming up pretty saturated in this camera, but in person it's more of a soft orangey yellow. Not yellow, I would say. Soft orangey brown. It's not really too vibrant. Could also be because I didn't add a lot of the leveling thinner and it doesn't have a gloss coat on it. So all of these colors will be kind of muted. But let me look at her tights image again. It's a very nice shade for the base color of the tights. So you can see under the tights text, there's a whole bunch of different oranges and kind of reds. This one is a pretty good match for the base of those tights, but I'll have to compare them a little bit later and see if that would be a good one. Because what you can do is you can spray the base color or lighten this up a little bit and then deepen it and make it more brown and darker with some clear brown. So we can use that too. All right, so we'll set those to the side. Let me just put this paint here so I know what I'm working with as well. And next spoon we're gonna do is the Mr. Color Wood Grain, Wood Floor, which I've never sprayed before, so this should be fun. I'm not really sure what color this is supposed to be, other than like, this color. Mr. Color caps are always pretty close to the final product, but even then, it can vary sometimes. Alright, shook it up, open it. It is very thick, like this cap is a little harder to open. Side, grab. Comes out a lot thicker than the other one. Well, a little more yellow than the copper brown. Stinkier, a little bit stinkier too. So here's a comparison of the two. On the side. This one's more orange yellow, and this one is more red brown. Kind of more burnt sienna, that copper one. Okay, so same deal here. We're just gonna try to work with 2 spoons, so. Alright, so this one I'm noticing is a lot more orangey and yellowy than the copper brown we just did. It also tends to cool up and saturate pretty quickly, so I was able to spray it pretty far away and it gave me a nice thin coat. But the more you saturate that paint, the kind of darker it gets, which is a problem I also have with red sometimes. Let me zoom in and show you guys in just a sec. As I quickly spray this out. You may even be able to see it even though the camera's pretty blurred right now. So this is the slight gradient piece. Let's see. And you can see it's a pretty yellowy, orangish color. It is a little bit duller than I thought it would be, so it's not super bright. But again, that's me just thinning it matte and spraying it matte, so that's probably part of it. This is a semi-gloss as well, so I'm not expecting it to be super shiny from the beginning. And this is the piece when it's just fully sprayed on all the time. So you can see there's a really clear difference in the color here. This one I'm shaking is kind of a thinner coat, and this is just straight up spraying it as much as I can. You can also see, let's see, so we'll zoom in. This kind of band right here of darker color. This is what can happen when you oversaturate and spray like too much too quickly. So, you know, you may have seen me spraying this in lines, kind of going back and forth like that. That is what can happen if you focus on one area too much. So that's usually why we advocate kind of spraying, you know, farther away, not too far because you don't want, you know, it to sputter or anything. But if you just kind of like go back and forth, you can end up getting an uneven paintbrush job, so, or airbrush job. So let's see how this one compares to this one, just real quick. Wow, quite a difference. Again, this one is more orange-red, and this one is more yellowy. So, not too bad though. I think I can probably work with one of these. So, good that we're getting all of this, you know, laid out. And then let's see how the gradient one compares. Yeah, the gradient is definitely more red orange on this one. I kind of like the copper brown color more. I think this is a nice color, but I'm not really sure what I would be using this for. So let's move on. Keep going. Oops, I just scratched one of these. Okay, let's keep moving on. Next we're gonna do the Mr. Color 42. This is mahogany, so I'm not really sure how this one will spray either. Just wanted to kind of get a baseline brown for possibly hair color. Mixing hair is kind of a pain for me. Or mixing brown, because really you have to like mix a bunch of colors to get brown. So brown is one of those, you know, that you have to mix two alternating colors. So you have to mix red and green, or, you know, was it blue and orange, something, you know. It's the opposites on the color wheel. So let me just pop color wheel. Yeah, so red and green is one of them, blue and orange, and yellow and purple. Those are roughly what you would need to mix each to get brown. And so you will get different shades and tones of brown depending on how, you know, the ratio, red to green, or, you know, yellow, etc. So it's a lot easier when you're airbrushing just to get a free mix and then tint that however you need to. So let's try and see how this mahogany looks. Just shaking it right now. Okay. Out. We also do have that cocoa brown that I keep forgetting about. So that's an option as well. We did use it at some point, I think. Or maybe I didn't. Yeah, we used it on the maid kit, I think, at some point. I showed it all. Anyway, let's open up this mahogany. See how it comes out. Looks like a very rich brown. Yeah, very kind of muted average brown. I get this color a lot when I mix red and green, so let's see if that holds up. You see right here. Brown again is one of those colors I think when you spray it really thin, it's going to look a lot different than when we spray it just saturating the spoon. So let's do it. See a comment real quick. Let me answer your comment before I start this, because otherwise I'm going to be muted. Thank you. Hi, Wave. How long does a kit usually take, or does it just depend on the kit? Really highly depends on the kit and the level of difficulty, the complexity, number of pieces, cast condition, the number of colors needed on a paint job. All of those factor into how long a figure takes to build. Size of the kit as well. You know, you've got mini, tiny baby kits, and then all the way up to like quarter scale, huge kits. And so all of them will, you know, take a different amount of time to build. Most of my kits, if we're talking in terms of like hours, again, it really depends, but I find most of my figures, I take anywhere between 30 to 80 hours to build them, depending on the complexity and you know, how detailed everything is. And this is just me. You know, there's plenty of people who build them much quicker, plenty of people who build them much slower. But yeah, it'll really depend on your kit and everything required for that kit as well. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight. More than happy to answer any other questions you have regarding it. So far in this stream, I think we're on what, like number 13 or something, and then multiply that by 2. So it's taken about 26 hours to get to where we are, considering we didn't really have any small like stopping periods where we talked about paint in general, etc. So definitely this one's a little bit quicker than some of the other ones I've been working on. Anyway, let's continue. We got this mahogany, which I haven't poured yet, so let's pour it in here and get this spoon going. Turning my airbrush PSI down. I am working at like 15 to 20 psi as usual. It's kind of my typical one for spring. So, all right. All right. So that one, I'm really liking the color of this mahogany. Let me pour the remaining out into my paint jar here, because we didn't think that much. Now let me take a look after I clean it out. Into my cup. Again, just always kind of doing a mid cleanup in between them. This is good practice and just my habit, so apologies for the delay in talking about everything. You see that a lot of stuff ends up coming off of your Q-tip.
How do you want to do that?
Quick enough one, should be good. All right, so let's look at this. Interesting. So this is a pretty mellow brown. It looks a lot brighter and more brown in the camera, but in person it's quite muted. More on the kind of grayish end, honestly, compared to the other one. Very brown. I think this one would be a good mixer slash shader. So I could potentially see myself using like the cocoa brown or something lightened as a base and then go over this for some of the shadowed parts. I don't know if I would use this straight up as the hair. Let me look at my phone and see how it compares. Right now I'm just looking at the color and comparing it on my phone. It's actually pretty close compared to the image here for the hair, so it can be a little bit brighter though. So I think what I would need to do is take this spoon and then put a clear color on top of it, maybe to kind of adjust it, because out of the bottle it's a little bit soft. And I think also it's a little bit humid here tonight, so I might be getting a little bit of blushing happening on this. I didn't add any retarder or anything to my paint, so it does look like it has a slight white tint on here. So what you can do, and maybe what I'll do real quick, is add just a tiny bit of the leveling thinner and spray over it. See if that does anything. That helped a little bit, but not a lot. I think that there's some blushing happening here. Meaning it's humid right now, I didn't add too much retarder, so it's giving me a little bit of a white cast. So maybe I'll have to return to that one later. But so far I think the color on that one, I like that. Glad I bought it. Alright. So next up, we do have the clear brown. I'm not really going to spray this on a spoon for a test because I already know how it comes out. Not really any point in just spraying a clear onto a white. So again, this is GX109 clear brown. We could use this to alter the spoon colors that we already sprayed, so maybe I'll do that later, but we'll come back to that. So next I'm going to do 103 black hair. This one I was debating using on her hair first, so I am curious how this color comes out. I've never used this color either, and before I had photoshopped her hair brown, I was originally going to keep it black because I also want to paint a kit with black hair. It's been a while since I've done that as well, so there's still a possibility that could happen, hence why we were about to try this. So again, it says black hair, but this is definitely more of a smoky gray, dark gray with a hint of blue in it. A lot of anime hair isn't just plain black anyway. It's got tones and hints of red or blue or purple in it, and so this is, I guess, one of Mr. Hobby's answers to black hair, making a color that's easy to come out of the bottle and spray right on it. Also, one thing to note, that all of these colors are sprayed on a white spoon. That's going to look a lot different if we're spraying on a black primed spoon or a gray primed spoon. So This is just like the pure white base color with nothing else affecting the pigments, but there is a possibility, you know, we could change the tone and the color here. So if you're, you know, mixing paints and trying to figure things out, sometimes it's good to use a gray or a black spoon as well, and that way you can see how the color reacts on a different surface. Same with other primers. You can use like a red base or a blue base. There's all sorts of infinite combinations you can do when you're airbrushing. So always fun stuff. Anyway, we'll go back on, see how this goes out. Okie doke. This is the black hair. Actually, interesting, this one. I thinned it about the same, but it sprayed out a little bit different. So I don't think this one needs to be thin. Oh, just spilled some thinner on here. I don't think it needs to be thinned quite as much as the other ones. It was going on pretty, like, it's hard to explain. Not quite as well. But looking at it, other than this mark here from me dropping thinner on it, definitely not a pure black. It's very much the black, but with a hint of gray in it. So that's a nice natural color. You can definitely get this by mixing, you know, black and white together, but out of the bottle, it's a really nice pleasing black. I can definitely see how they would call this anime black hair. Again, not sure if this is what I'm looking for, but it might be a good alternative to painting some of the grays on her outfit here. So Chun-Li has these little like rings on her arms and her armband, and this kit, like our kit, doesn't have that, but I might mask off a little area and spray a little black band on her. That one has green in it. Not sure if this color is good for what we're working on, but it's good to have on hand and to see what it looks like. So keep that aside. All right, and lastly, I guess what we'll do is take some of the Mr. Finishing Surfacer, and I'm gonna spray the rest of these spoons black. And then after that, we're gonna spray them with the Ueno black, and finally finish up with the metallic blue. So I'm really gonna spray a couple of these to see how they, you know, look, and hopefully everything looks good. Again, this is a black primer, so it will go on first. Not sure how much settling time it needs to have, so we'll see. But this is a pretty matte finish, hence why we're going over it with the Ueno black, which is supposed to be a gloss color. But last time I sprayed it, it wasn't super glossy, so we'll see. alternatively, you can buy like a very glossy black finish to begin with, and then that will be a good base for your metallics. You can also spray other colors, first and put metallics on top of those. But the big thing is to have a gloss surface. So unfortunately, we don't have time to, fully gloss the kit and then wait for it to, or fully gloss the spoons and then wait for the spoons to, dry and everything. And then get a super glossy surface on it. But we'll see what we can do tonight. You can see this color comes out pretty pure black, so I do enjoy using this Mr. Finishing Surfacer when I need to use black. Not often, but it's been a good addition. Alright, one more time. We're going to spray all 4 of these though first with this, and then we'll switch over to the Uno Black, which I'll turn off the booth for. Yeah, turning this off. Alright, got a nice black hole here now that's forming from all the spraying. And clean this out real quick. Time. I need to get a little bit more thinner shortly. too much. We're going to be spraying another coat of black shortly after this. But again, this is just the primer black, so this is Mr. Finishing Surfacer black. But you can see that it goes on super smooth. It's a really nice, you know, I applied a thin coat at first to all of them before going in with a heavier coat. But I really like the, you know, fineness of the particles here. It's pretty smooth. There's no roughness at all coming out. In comparison to the quote-unquote black hair, you can see that there is a difference in the color here. So this is the black surfacing finisher, and this is the black hair. So really, like, this is so much more blue-gray than this. Interesting to see them side by side. This one actually might work for those bands now that I put them together. But yeah, let me prep the Uno black now. So what we're gonna do next is just put this darker, or I guess shinier black on top of these spoons. See how that looks. And then after that, we're gonna switch out my airbrush and use my bigger one to spray some Mr. Color Metallic Blue. And that should pretty much wrap us up for tonight. Again, I just wanted to do kind of some baseline spoon colors before really digging into the mixtures and figuring out how we're going to paint this actual kit. That will be next, might be next Tuesday. We'll have to see. I think I have something going on Monday, and I do want to start changing my stream schedule to accommodate for my new school schedule. So we might have to start switching times, but I will let you guys know. Just be prepared that it may not happen on Monday. Alright, Uno black. Bought this one quite recently. I've been out of black for a while, and I don't use black too much, so I thought that a small bottle was probably a better idea. Previously, I'd been using the Gaia Notes black, which I also really like. But it wasn't, actually I do have it. Yeah, I do have it, but I'm opting for this right now. So again, pretty much same color, honestly, as the finishing or the primer. I don't know why I can't make that focus. There we go. So a very long, regular black. Nothing too crazy. That's an easy one. You can see that when it goes on, it sprays pretty glossy compared to the regular finishing surfacer. This will fade out a little bit because again, it's pretty, you know, we don't have a gloss top coat on it, but it's still pretty glossy compared to what it was before. So this will be a good like starter base, I guess, just to estimate what the metallic will look like. Let me clean up this, and then what I'm gonna do is clean my Iwata airbrush up really well because we're gonna switch over to my 0.5mm nozzle to spray those metallics. So metallic color generally has a higher and larger, well, not higher, but it has a larger pigment size compared to regular opaque and transparent paints. So if you're spraying metallics and you're finding that your regular workhorse airbrush isn't cutting it and it seems like it's clogging, that's probably because the pigments are too large for your airbrush. So what I do these days is I use my Iwata for all of the generic work, like what we're doing now, as well as priming. And I reserve my 0.5mm nozzle airbrush for metallics and pearl. And both of those have higher, I keep saying higher, larger pigment sizes compared to regular paint. So they spray a lot easier out of that larger needle size. Alternatively, you can just switch out your needle size if you have an airbrush that can handle different sizes. But I found with the number of kits that I build and the time that I take, a lot easier for me just to switch out the airbrush rather than the needle. It is possible as well that this Mr. Color metallic blue might very well out of this Iwata, but I'm not going to try that on stream right away. Been able to use some of their metallics through this, but I'd rather not take a chance. Alright, let me shut this off. Take off my airbrush. So we are removing it completely. And let me grab my master airbrush, which is the 0.5mm nozzle and needle. This again is just kind of a cheapo one that I bought off of Amazon. This whole set was only like $30, but definitely feels like a cheap airbrush. So if you're just starting out airbrushing, just keep in mind that quality matters in terms of airbrushes. So buying a $30 cheap one off Amazon may not be good for your first airbrush. Maybe better to save up for a better quality one. Okay, so this is attached now. I'm gonna move these out of the booth real quick. So have them. And you can see that now they've dried a little. They're still a little glossy, but not quite as much as before when they sprayed on wet. So if you wanted a really shiny finish, it would be better to either like polish them after you use a clear top coat, or just spray under a different condition. But a gloss top coat will take you a long way in terms of getting the finish that you want. I'm gonna remove this as well. I'm gonna switch this out and get a new paper towel set because that one was getting pretty used from everything. Okay. Alright, nice and clean. Let's put this back here. And so lastly, what we're going to do tonight is use this Mr. Color metallic blue. I'm excited about this one. I've never sprayed this color. Not really even sure how it's going to come out, how it's going to look like on a black base. We'll have to see. I am going to do a full set of this one, so I'm going to thin it with one dropper, or use one dropper of paint. Very nice. Looks like a very high pigment count here. Very, very blue. But not sure how blue that will spray out. Yeah, that is a striking blue. Okay. Alright, last one, I guess. So I might as well just try to spray all of these and see how it goes. The 0.5 runs through paint pretty quickly because it is a larger size, so I might need to make 2 batches of this. But I will, let you guys know and adjust things if necessary. Wow. Okay. So a little goes a really long way with this metallic. I thinned a lot out and I still have a bunch left in my cup here. Let me clean this up first. These metallics are kind of crazy, they get everywhere. And then I will compare it. What I also did, so I sprayed a whole bunch on a black base and then I just, decided to put one on a white base as well. And the color difference is completely different and striking, so I'll show you guys in one moment. I might do another experiment with gray and see what color I get for that and see which one is closest to kind of where I want to start or work with. A lot of metallics advertise they work, best on black. And you definitely get a really high shine when you work on black, but your color also ends up completely different. Blue is one of those colors that takes a while to clean up too. It kind of gets on everything, so I'm gonna make sure that it all looks good. Don't really have much more time to get a whole bunch of gray spoons ready. Might do that next time though. It's about ready. Also, it would be interesting to see how this color shows up under a yellow base, because then you're really going to get a greener color. Oh, there's a lot that was left on this Q-tip. A little bit more. Just fun. Mixing colors, spraying them on stuff, always fun. Even if we're just messing around. Always a fun opportunity to experiment with your color. Try new things. There is a little bit more difference. Got pretty stuck. Some of that pigment just kind of settled at the bottom there, so I could remove the needle, but it's kind of a pain with this airbrush, so there. Okay, so let's take a brief look at how this metallic blue ended up. I will turn this over so it's not quite as obvious, and we can compare the colors a little bit easier. So this is going to be a little bit dull. We don't have a glossy top coat on it yet, but this is under a black base. You can see it's a really nice darker, deeper blue, not so much like cyan, it's more just blue. It does have that nice shine to it. If we added a gloss top coat, I bet it would really shine. And here is a comparison. Wow, under a white base. So totally different color here, guys. This is why it's so important to test under different base conditions and different, primers. So this is under a black. And also, it's probably less glossy because we have those other top coats that haven't had a chance to cure. So we do have the black under there. It still was, not fully dried, not fully cured. So that's why it's not quite as glossy. This is under a white base. So nothing here except for just plain spoon. Completely different color. So, if we pull up Chun-Li again and then compare these two spoons. The white one looks a lot closer to me. It's very bright. Gray might be a better fit here, a gray base, but I haven't had a chance to really work with that yet. And this would definitely need a little bit of a clear color adjustment because the white by itself, like this one here, so bright. Just not really what I'm looking for. It's a little bit too blue, so Chun-Li's outfit is a little bit more purple in it. But it's a good start, and I could definitely see myself using this. I'll probably stick with this metallic blue for her outfit. It will just need a little bit of an adjustment. So really cool. Let's compare this to the other colors and just see out of curiosity what they look like. So this is the black, so the black hair, pretty nice, just kind of flat compared to these crazy metallics. This is the mahogany hair, which has a little bit of frosting on it, so it's not quite as brown as it should be. This started out so like dark brown, but then you compare it to these colors and it just looks so much brighter. So now I'm unsure. Now this one looks a lot more appealing to me. This is the wood color, so that wood yellowy color. Don't think I'm going to use the wood yellow for anything. Not really feeling this color very much. And lastly, the copper brown. So I can potentially see using the copper brown as the base for the tights, perhaps. Maybe lightening it up a bit with some white, and then using some clear browns and other stuff on it. Here is, again, the tights. You can see that color there. And you can see kind of the highlight on her tights there, on Chun-Li's tights. That could potentially work, but we'll just have to play around with it. Not sure yet. A good starting point in any case for these spoons. I really just like looking at metallics. This blue one's starting to dry a little bit, so it's not quite as shiny, but good starting. Good point. This is a really pretty one. I just really like this blue. But I can't believe how crazy it is under that plain white base. Anyway, that pretty much concludes what we're gonna do tonight. Let me switch out my airbrush again, just, you know, for the heck of it. But it has been enjoyable and pleasant hanging out with you all. Next time, we will continue the spoon painting. We're pretty much on the path to painting now. So there's not going to be any more priming, there's not going to be any more puttying, just full colors, mixing, you know, spoons for a while, and then we will start out painting this kit. So I'm really excited to see what happens and how we go from here. Hopefully you found it enjoyable too. The next stream will be next week. I am guessing on Tuesday instead. I have something going on Monday night. So thinking Tuesday, we'll see from there. I will let you guys know. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I hope to see you next week. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.